This is...
Wait, we should establish like what we want to talk about. What are the bullet points we need to hit here?
I got it. Okay, so we tell them that the show is called Do You Want to Make a Podcast? It is a fireside chat between two best friends who are on the hunt to create the perfect podcast. They have a lot of ideas, and they can't decide what they want to talk about.
Okay.
That's pretty much it.
That's it?
That's the synopsis. Then we'll plug the social media.
Do we want to do like social media?
Yeah. So we'll tell them to follow us at Do You Want to Pod, all spelled out. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can also email us at doyouwanttomakeapodcast@gmail.com.
That's it.
That works for me.
Wait, I think we just did it.
We did it. That was my plan all along.
Oh, okay. Bye. Except hello, because now the show's starting.
Yes, it is.
She's so fine, fine, fine. She's so fine, fine. She's so fine, she's so
And we're here. Friends, family, campers, strangers. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hello.
I think that covers the gamut, right?
Yeah.
Friends, those are the 4 groups of people. Friends, family, campers, and strangers. That's it.
Yes.
That's all there is.
And none of them are more important. There's no hierarchy here. They're all on the same plane.
Yeah.
But they are mutually exclusive.
You can't be a camper.
You cannot be both a camper and a family.
You can be a family member who, after an argument, becomes a camper. Maybe you just want to take some distance. You go out in the backyard, you pitch a tent, and you're like, I'll see you guys in the morning.
And then you don't. And then everyone's friends. So.
And then everyone's friends. Isn't it? Have you guys experienced that where like you are so upset at people, and then when you wake up in the morning, sometimes things are just better. Sometimes they're not, but a lot of the times I find that they have been.
I find that after you sit for something, just let it marinate, and then the next day you're like, oh, why was I so upset about that? Especially in these times, everything seems so trivial. It's like I can't be mad at you not reading. Here's a fun fact. I get upset in like personal relationships, romantic romantic, whatever it is. A pet peeve of mine is you not reading my brain. After a certain amount of time of spending time with someone, I expect you to just, and that's not fair. It's completely not fair at all. But that's my, and then I'm like,
you're not the only one who expects that.
You're not reading my brain.
No, and I'm not. And Mom, if you're listening, I'm not coming for you right now. And this is good. But before we get too into it, listeners, we are honored to have the one, the only Devin Holloway joining us on the show today.
Yay!
Thank you, friend, for being here.
Thank you both for having me. I'm honored.
I'm so excited. We keep forgetting to do the only consistent part of our show. So we got to resume consistency where we ask everyone, do you want to make a podcast?
I want to make a podcast. This is, you guys are popping my podcast cherry, so.
Love that. James?
Let's go!
Let's do it.
Let's do this thing. Awesome. To connect the dots a little bit for folks at home and also to butter Devin's bread, there's not much I miss about living in Manhattan. One of the few things I miss is opening my front door to my building and I hear this lovely human practicing whatever audition song he's doing. Devin was on the ground floor and I was on a 5th floor walk up. Oof. But it was worth it. I would walk those steps extra slow because I'm like, my dude sounds so good. Yes. You have a wonderful voice, my friend.
Thank you so much. It was fun. It was a fun time living in that same building. It was you, me, and then Eileen in the building next door to us.
That's right.
It was such
I never saw Eileen once.
Right?
That's New York for you.
I felt like we all moved in within that 1 year, and there was like a weekend where we were like, "Oh, hi everyone." And then,
you live here too? This is great. Too? And then see you never.
That was like 4 years ago, so.
The most serendipitous, beautiful way of meeting Devin happened where, much like Zoom right now, this is kind of full circle. My buddy and I were in an audition room waiting, and Devin was sitting next to me. Did not know Devin at the time, total stranger. And I hear him FaceTiming someone who sounds a lot like our friend Eileen, and I like creepily try to glance over, and he is FaceTiming Eileen, and I'm like, is that Eileen? And Devin's like, yes, creepy person, who are you? I'm like, turn the camera. And then I was like, Eileen, and it was great. And now we're all friends.
And we live within
great.
seconds of each other, and that's New York for you. I love that.
It is. I'm no longer in the city, but I do miss that. I miss having all my friends within a stone's throw.
Neither am I, actually. I literally just moved to Union City about a month ago.
Okay.
Tomorrow, Sunday will be a month, actually.
How do you like it?
I love it. I have a gorgeous view. You probably can't. I'm not going to show you behind me, but because you'll just get like a white. The light will pollution. Like, can you see it? You're like, I can't see anything.
This is the sun.
This is the sun. But I have a really nice view of Manhattan, and I get to go into the city when I want to, and then leave and get to view it from my bedroom. Yeah. So that's nice. All while getting all the amenities and not paying for as much as Manhattan would.
Amen, brother.
So,
yeah, man.
There was a moment where I moved in with a friend from when I was on tour with Something Rotten, and there was a moment where I had to kind of give up this dream, of like being in Manhattan. My dream was like being on the island, and whether it be Harlem or the Heights or wherever, I was like, I'm on Manhattan, and that's the thing. And then I was like, Manhattan's getting expensive, and and there's just certain things. I'm turning 30 in a year, but I'm turning 30, and there's just like certain things. I'm like, I grew up in the South. Central air is not a luxury to me. It's a way of life.
Yes.
Yes. So there's certain things I'm like that I want, and if family were to come up, I don't want them to be uncomfortable.
This is adult life, my friend.
I am an adult now.
Sip tea.
I had a question for you, and I forgot it. I forgot my question.
Don't you hate that? I do that all the time.
I do it now with my phone, where I open my phone to do something, and I stare at it for 5 seconds. I was like, what was I going to do?
I do it with everything. I literally stand up, and I'll be like,
why am I standing?
I got up to do something, and I have no idea what it was.
It's gone.
It's gone. Completely
Forget
gone.
it, man.
And then I'll sit down, and I'll be like, oh, God damn it.
And then do you still do it, or you like, forget it, I'm already sitting back down, it's not happening?
It depends. Sometimes it's like, sometimes it's something so trivial as like going to the bathroom. It's like, why did I get up? Oh, I went up to go to the bathroom. And then I'll sit down and I'll be like, I really have to pee.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, oh, that's right. That's what I got up to do 10 minutes ago. I never did.
Just sit there.
Anyway, that's my story.
No, that's my quarantine life, is waking up or getting up to go to the pantry and just staring at the pantry. I was here for something. And it's gone. And I guess I'll starve to death until I figure it out.
Oh no, my dude. Oh, well, what? So I'm curious, like, where are you at in your quarantine journey right now, man?
I'm doing pretty good. There was a moment. There was. So, it's really interesting. I got back to the city March 7th, I believe.
Wow.
That Saturday. I was on a cruise ship for 8 months. So that was, I don't know if you ever done a cruise ship, but some people consider it like luxury prison. It's really nice, but you're just kind of stuck on a ship for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
And I got off the ship. I'm so excited. Getting back to New York, and I had these callbacks and seeing my friends, and I'm so great. I get back to the city. I see a show. I do these callbacks and auditions like the first 4 days, and then Thursday comes down, and then everything shuts down. And then I go back into luxury prison where I'm in my apartment for for an extended period of time.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really bizarre. So about the first 2-3 weeks, I was also preparing for a photo shoot to get new headshots and everything. And the first 3 weeks, I said, you know what? Throw everything out the window. I don't need to worry about my diet or going to the gym. I'm just gonna relax, eat, wake up when I want to wake up, and just do that. And because I also was working a lot up to that, so I hadn't really had time to really just lay in a bed and and then that got boring and I became very anxious. I'm like, what am I doing? I got to give myself some kind of structure. So I called a friend of mine who's a personal trainer, Matthew Baker Fitness. He's great. He's my trainer. He was our Shakespeare on Something Rotten, and he basically gave me a great home workout routine. And
nice.
Yeah, and since then I've been on I have a pretty set schedule now, up until 12. After like 12 or 1 o'clock,
free time, baby.
It's free time. Who knows what happens?
I really like what you said about like at first taking that I feel like that was phase 1 of quarantine for me too. It was just like everything shut down and it's like it was so freeing to not have anything to do and not like no one was expecting me to do anything and I just got to exist for a week and I was like, okay, coming out of this, how do I maintain some of that stillness, some of that, or just like basically my plate got cleared and it's like, okay, now what do I want to put back on this plate? Do I want to fill it up with everything that was there before? Do I want to fill it up with half? Do I want to fill it up with a quarter? I've since gotten good at busying myself with Zoom again. I'm off and running, but I think I've definitely, for anyone who needs to hear this, it's not a bad thing to take 1 or 2 things from your plate that was full before and really invest your time in those things instead of spreading yourself super duper thin. And I say that as much to remind myself to do it.
Absolutely. I think what the kind of blessing that this pandemic has given us is time for us to just sit and be still and step back and say, okay, what is actually essential? What can I do with my time? What do I need to focus on? And now I'm getting to this point of I see a lot of my friends or colleagues like creating content and or just being active and doing, on social media. And I struggle with this kind of in between of do I need to why do I need to create something? Can I just be? Because part of being an artist is observing the world, and I'm definitely a quiet observer. If you see me at a Starbucks or Dunkin' or on the corner, I'm usually just kind of sit back and just watching people watching. So I think it's interesting finding that balance of being creative and putting art in that's meaningful, especially during this time with everything that's going on, police brutality, voting rights, the government, everything, the pandemic.
Right.
Being creative and having something that's inspiring and maybe not so heavy, but also touching on those things and saying what I need to say and being active.
Yeah. What I'm hearing there a lot is like asking yourself like what matters in terms of like the people that you see versus the content that you consume. Like I was listening to a bunch of podcasts and I was behind on my listening and I cleared the list because I was like, I don't want to listen to anything that doesn't know the pandemic is coming. Like I don't want to listen to 3 weeks ago because that world is over. I want to hear these hosts doing their quarantine version of the show. But like that's the thing too, is like I'm very curious to see once a new normal emerges, what kinds of stories are going to be told. I really hope that like it raises the bar for the stories that get told versus whether in theater or film. Like I hope that there is less room for like arbitrary living room plays where people are being funny and witty and not much is happening. There's a lot of content out, like it's theater especially, where I'm just like, but why is this a play? Why
are we doing this?
Why are we sitting here watching this? So I just hope it makes things a lot more intentional is the wrong word, but like just those stakes. I just hope they get even higher.
Absolutely. And it's funny, like finding the balance. Finding the balance with those stakes is always interesting, because I'm personally attracted to art that is just light, funny, something rotten. That is it's kind of it's a bit of a dream come true. When I got the job, I'm like, wow, this is kind of great. This is the kind of theater that I grew up loving.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And I want to do something like that, but how do we do something like that that's light and lighthearted while also saying something? You know, can we do both? Can we have something as absurd as Book of Mormon or something rotten or Spamalot? Can we have something as absurd and farce as that while also saying something? How do you do that?
I think the answer is yes, there will be, and that's my favorite kind of thing that does that while having poignant moments that really hit your heart. Because too much of just straight sad drama is too much, and
It's too much.
a bunch of fluff that is like if you went absurd with something rotten or these things and they said nothing, that wouldn't be interesting either. I think it's having all of it in the mix.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think a show that really kind of did it well. They've done it. They did it well was SpongeBob, and I'm sure everyone has their opinions about SpongeBob. Me, I love it. I actually went into the show to see it, and I was like, okay, I grew up watching SpongeBob. I'm like, okay, this is SpongeBob the musical. Here we go. And I fell in love with it, and not just the material and the fact that it's SpongeBob in a musical, but what they were actually saying. They had a lot of heart, and I went back and rewatched the Nickelodeon live recording of it, and it's very topical, what's happening today in the world. And they said it wasn't intentional. I went in the rabbit hole of YouTube and SpongeBob the musical, went down that rabbit hole. So I watched a lot of things, and they were like, oh, it wasn't really that intentional. Whether it was intentional or not, that's kind of the beauty of art, is that sometimes it just coincides with what's going on. So I think SpongeBob did it perfectly.
Jim, your response.
You have opinions about SpongeBob?
I don't know. I'm just asking.
I mean, I have not watched. I started watching the SpongeBob musical on Nickelodeon, and I just didn't finish it. It's still waiting on my DVR, waiting to be finished. So I mean, I don't. But what I did watch, I was like, oh, this is so joyful. But you could tell that it was getting SpongeBob has a really good I Want song at the beginning of that. He has this great song that's everybody thinks I'm a joke, or thinks I'm a child or whatever, something like that. Yeah. And he's like, but no, but I have something to offer, something of that. And just that, one snapshot is so chef's kiss, because it speaks to, and it's one of those ideas that's just universal.
Absolutely, everyone can relate. I am worthy, whether I'm a fry cook or a senator or whatever. I'm worth something, and I think we all need that. We all need to realize and remember our worth, and sometimes that's hard. It's beautiful. It's a really beautiful message.
Thank you for reminding me of that, my friend.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
This episode's going to make one
love.
Peace and love, man.
Peace and love, man.
Since we're talking about SpongeBob, my girlfriend and avid listener of the show, Taylor Keller, is going to be really excited to hear this. You're her new favorite person, Devin. I promise you that.
Aww.
She does love SpongeBob the musical.
She does. I have yet to... I feel like I need to watch it again. I saw the tour. I have many... I really don't think that I have any authority to speak on this. I will say that it was hard to, like, as a huge fan of SpongeBob, like, I will say that I felt overstimulated with the amount that was it was hard for me to pay, like to Jim's point, the I Want song, great. The smaller numbers, great. But there was just a lot going on that it was hard for me to clock, like, okay, what is the important thing to be following, right? And maybe that's just me being overly analytical. But
to that point, then the recording for television probably would help you.
Yeah,
because that's
forces your perspective. Yeah,
to compare it to the other big recording right now of Hamilton on Disney Plus, like that's what people that have seen the stage production have complained about Hamilton, is that it's forcing your perspective on a specific part of the action too much, and you're not able to take in all the great things that the Hamilton ensemble does in their choreo and their just the ensemble-ness of it.
I had a friend, I saw SpongeBob 4 times on Broadway, and one of those times I brought my best friend, Harrison Richland, to it, and within the first minute, I knew that he really wasn't having it, and I, like, literally, it was the opening number.
Oh no. And which time was this that you saw it? Was this like time number 1?
This was, I think, time number 3.
Haha, okay.
I want to say this was the 3rd time. And my friend Harrison, he's a great writer. He's brilliant. And we were sitting there, and within the first minute, I'm like, he's not here for this. So the whole act 1 is happening. One of my favorite numbers is Patrick's number, Super Sea Star Savior. Mm-hmm. Great gospel number. I'm screaming. I'm like, I don't. You probably heard my laugh in this podcast. It's very loud, so I am cackling. It's like if my laugh on here is a 1, I was at a 10. Mm. And then the curtain comes down at the end of Act 1, and I look over to it, and I'm still cackling. I'm like, you don't like this. Like, you are not having. I'm like, what's up? He goes, you know what? It's not anything about the show. It's cotton candy, and it's too sweet. And there's just this amount of joy that the show exudes that can be overbearing and sometimes
I fear that.
Overpowering.
I said
overpowering.
I fear that. That's a Freudian slip. I meant to say I hear that, but maybe I do fear that.
and I think that was what he was like. I don't know if like that joy is. It's a little sad because, like, can I match that joy? What, you know? And SpongeBob is just pure optimism. You know, that's he exudes optimism. So if someone sees SpongeBob and they're like, it's too much, I totally get it, because that's the whole point of SpongeBob.
That's the point.
Yeah.
I dig that. I will say this, that I can only see more good than bad coming from an opportunity for someone to see a SpongeBob story, whether that is a musical or a TV show. I think like that amount of joy, that amount of optimism is a good thing to be out in the world. So for that reason, I'm glad the show's around. I'm just on a technical note, Devin, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on this, because you've seen it more than I. When I was watching it the first time around, there was a lot of songs, and yes, it's a musical, but I remember listening to one song and be like, okay, cool, yeah, I get what that song was about. And then another song would happen and be like, that's exactly what the last song was saying. And I felt like there was almost like duplicate, well, they were very different like styles to the songs, but I felt like I was getting the same message across 3 songs. And I'm like, okay, we could have done with 1 song versus 3 songs. Like, is that just me, or did you experience that?
Yes and no. I've definitely heard the same thing that they're saying. It seems as though that the consistent thing I hear about the show is that they just kind of skirt the level of funny that is possible, rather than really going deep with whatever message that each song is trying to do in that moment in the story.
Okay.
So instead of really articulating these kind of fine-tuned and nuanced emotions, it's kind of a blanket cover of this is kind of the emotion that we are, or the tone that we are trying to set in this moment, rather than really saying specifics. And I think what's the reason that that kind of happens is the way that the show was constructed. Each artist had a moment in the show. They said, okay, we're going to send this song off to Yolanda Adams, and she's going to write this number in this moment in the show. And then we're going to send this song off to Common, and he's going to do this moment. And then, Sarah Bareilles is going to do this moment. So I don't know if this ever happened, but I wonder if they were all in the room at the same time.
Right.
Or on a Zoom video,
Yeah.
Probably not. Like, I can't imagine that there are 10 plus big name musical artists all have the same time availability to sit down for a couple hours and discuss this musical. That's hard. So
Yeah.
that
makes sense.
Hey, where there's a will, there's a way. We did it. So
yeah, we did it. They have no excuse.
they have no excuse.
Where to from here, my friends?
I mean, all I kept thinking about while we were talking about that is, other things that kind of have that place that we started at of like this deeper meaning on top of this feeling of joy. And I just kept coming back to children's programming or children's programming, right? Because like the two things that really come to mind are Adventure Time and Steven Universe, which I both like big time recommend to like everyone I've ever met, for both of them. But they both have this, they have so many different aspects of, they have these moments that are just like ridiculous, outlandish things, and then they have these moments of just like really bare vulnerability.
Yeah.
And they have really good music, both of them. Like the music is stellar and really brings it to such a heightened level the way theater does. That's all I keep thinking of.
Well, you said all of that, and I haven't seen the second show that you mentioned, but Adventure Time I have, which I am a fan of Adventure Time. Haven't seen all of it, but there was a moment where I was just, okay, we're gonna just spend a whole day and just marathon some Adventure Time, and on that topic, it seems as though, I don't know how you two feel about it, but it seems as though cartoons these days are they're just extremely different from when we grew up watching them. Obviously, we're different. We're a different generation. We're a different mindset. But I find that the cartoons that I grew up watching seem to teach more morals of heart and morality and good things. And now the cartoons now are just a lot of fart jokes that don't lead to anything. Don't get me wrong.
I was going to say, I remember a lot of fart jokes when I was watching cartoons.
We grew up watching like Ren and Stimpy or
I was gonna say, well, you've got Ren and Stimpy and Beavis and Butthead.
We had a lot of but I think that overall the cartoons that we grew up watching were more poignant in teaching kids the right between what's good, what's the difference between what's good and bad, and what is good and bad, and how even if people are quote unquote bad, that doesn't make them completely bad. Like it showed everyone in a kind of 360 light, and I feel that cartoons today aren't as poignant with that kind of messaging. No?
Oh, I need to watch more of today's cartoons to really understand what you're. Do you have one in mind, Devin, that you think doesn't reach into that hard stuff?
Oh yeah.
Adventures of
Gumball.
Yeah, Gumball. Yeah.
Okay.
Gumball is one that's definitely a little bit more surface level.
And what? Yeah, and what? There was. Is that the same one? I don't know if Gumball's the same one where there's like an older guy. He's almost like a child, like mentally, and he has like lederhosen. I think he's German. I don't know.
Oh, Uncle Grandpa.
Uncle Grandpa. Yeah,
Jesus.
that's
Still a
so
show?
bizarre. That's bizarre. Uncle Grandpa.
Is that still like running current?
Yeah,
episodes?
that show's weird. That show's weird as hell. I don't think so. I think that was mid 2000. That was mid 2010s though. Yeah,
Right.
it was a relatively recent show.
I was like, is it me? Like, we're calling this guy Uncle Grandpa, and he's in.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. Maybe he wasn't in lederhosen, but I'm like, I'm looking.
I blame Cat Dog for this, for paving the way for things like Uncle Grandpa.
Yeah.
Well, just think of the name, Cat Dog, Uncle Grandpa. Like, these things aren't supposed to go together.
But I will say, I think that comes from SpongeBob.
Yes.
Oh, good point.
Yes. I think that there's SpongeBob's complicated because there is a level of SpongeBob that is very fart joke based.
Well, yes. Current SpongeBob and new SpongeBob.
Yes, and current SpongeBob is especially guilty of this, but also original early SpongeBob. There were also times when it was a little bit more juvenile. But there is also, I think that we mentioned earlier, the best message of SpongeBob is that kind of eternal optimism. And how, he approaches everything with such infectious positivity. I will, just to come to bat for modern cartoons, the second show I mentioned, Steven Universe, does a lot of the things that you're talking about, Devin. It's a show that's it is a kid show, but it deals with a lot of things that are very heady. Everything from gender identity to to intimacy to relationships to loss to guilt and like all kinds of things that that just are crazy. A lot of those things that you might be looking for. And the other place that I go to for really good animation these days is Netflix.
Big Mouth.
Big Mouth is a pretty good show, which I would not have believed if you had showed me any 30 seconds of Big Mouth.
You'd be like, "Oh God, this is just
this is so gross and raunchy.
It's so gross, and terrible. why is this on, and why are we showing these children in this light?" But it is. I don't have children. I hope to have children at some point. But if and when I have children, you can fight me on this. But I would introduce them to Big Mouth in middle school.
Rock on.
And it's the show definitely it goes there. It maybe says things that even middle schoolers shouldn't say. But but looking at it, I wish that I had that kind of show in middle school. So at least it says, "Hey, you're not alone."
Right.
Yeah.
What you're going through, what you're feeling, these weird mix of emotions. The next guy that everyone's feeling these things.
Yeah.
The next guy next to you, the girl over there, that person over there, we're all going through the same type of thing. And I think that kind of animation is great. That uses at least my type of humor, this kind of raunchy, in your face, sometimes dark humor, and says, "Hey, we're not so different, you and I."
Yeah. I think that's what makes my favorite stories. And this is a grand statement, and I'm only 28 years old, so what the heck do I know? But I would be willing to wager that underneath every story that we consume are characters who are craving connection, that don't want to be alone. And if I don't sense that, I would be willing to bet that probably isn't something that interests me. You know? Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. I know that sounds really pretentious.
That's
a working theory.
That is not. I don't think that's pretentious at all. That is like you kind of dropped the mic with that for me. I was like, ooh.
I've ruined every story for you ever. Like that's to me what sits underneath it is like when I see two people walk into a scene, I'm like, okay, how are they gonna try to connect or resist connection or I think that's what makes it good is in terms of as the audience. That's why we watch things, right? Is to feel connected to something, to not feel alone, to feel part of a whole. I think, anyway.
Absolutely. That's we crave connection. You know, we need it. We need it to survive. So it doesn't blow my mind that we need it in our entertainment. We need to know that these two people, these two characters, are going through something, and how does that their relationship and their story relate to me? Because it will, if it's good, and especially if it's good, it will, because everything we're all trying to connect. But like, I was about to say some random quote that I have no idea where it comes from, but it's something of the effect of we're all meteors in space, and we're just trying to crash. And I don't. Is that a thing? Have you heard something of?
I've heard much
something of that nature. Yeah,
I've heard much.
Yeah.
I've heard many things that make less sense than that. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. I think we're all trying to crash into something and say, I'm
what
here.
is it? And what is it about the world? And this is rhetorical, and maybe we'll cut this, but what is it that makes us think we're not alone, or makes us think that we are alone? Like, if we have the need to watch these stories to make connections, what is it that something must be telling us that you're alone? For you to think, oh, then I must find my. I mean, I don't want to say group or tribe because that's very loaded and charged, and not what I'm trying to say at all. But like, do you get what I'm saying?
Yes.
As I struggle for words.
Yes. While let me toss out last two recommendations. If you want a grown-up show that deals with this, might I recommend BoJack Horseman?
I knew you were gonna. I was like, he's gonna say BoJack Horseman.
If you want a kids show, don't laugh at me. Well, again, quote unquote kids show. Don't laugh at me. But She-Ra and the Princesses of Power is
She-Ra and the Princesses
of Power. Also on Netflix. All about people looking for connection in different ways, and a lot of the villains are just kind of misguidedly looking for validation in kind of all the wrong places.
Right on.
And that, so that's kind of what I and even the relationships between the heroes are like different levels of dependency and trying to get acceptance and validation and all of those things that you were kind of talking about, Joe. So
yeah,
highly recommend.
I think we all want validation. We all, and that comes from the ego, right? Like, and I say ego not in a kind of egotistical.
Right. You're speaking diva. Like you're talking Freudian, not narcissistic. You're talking about like the id, the ego. Yeah.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes. Exactly. So that I think it's the same thing that says that we are all together is the same thing, or we're not so different. The same thing that relates us is the same thing that's saying, hey, what relates me? If that makes sense. Yeah. That's so convoluted, I feel. But the same thing that we're looking for is the same thing that makes us. Oh God, I lost where I was going with that.
Okay, well, cut me off because I have a half-baked thought that will probably end up. Well, this is what you just said, Devin, made me think. Like, I wonder, like, like as our animal selves in the past ate, cooked foods and stuff. We got more protein, our brains developed, and all this stuff. What if our brains like haven't fully, maybe evolutionary, we have some more developing to do, because like we started like from a place of animal instinct where it was just like reproduce, survive, whatever, and you didn't want for anything because there was nothing else. And maybe our brains developed further, but the side effect of that is that now we have this notion that we're alone. Like now it's like, like ignorance is bliss maybe was us in the hunter-gatherer days where you only had two things to do in the day, and really one thing, which was not die, right? So like now that we're good in terms of like our life, like our lifespan is projected to be longer because we've built these structures and stuff for ourselves. Maybe there's some like primal part of us that is like, well, now we just don't know what to do because we don't have to gather except, you know, go to frickin' Costco or whatever, right? So maybe it's just like we have more, maybe it's just idle hands, more time. I don't really know where I'm going with this, but
strip all of that away. Strip the structure, strip even us having, you know, trying to survive. Let's say that, let's keep that in place. But like strip all of the structures of life and a job and everything. Take that out of the way. We don't have a job. What do we want? You wake up the next day and what do you want? And I think what I want is after I wake up, I think at the heart of it is to look at someone and say, hey,
yeah.
you know, and it's so simple as that. It's just connecting.
Yeah.
And it's not connecting because I'm lonely, but connecting because it's part of my DNA, I think. I think it's part of all of our DNA.
Right. Even
the most antisocial introvert that you can probably imagine, they need that. They need someone to say, how you doing? To touch their shoulder and say, like, you're here.
Right.
I'm here. We're living.
I love that. We are living.
We are. I'm always about to say, I'm still here.
Ooh, please serenade me, Mr. Holloway.
Color purple. I'm not warm.
Oh, is there? So wait, that's fair, and I'm not going to put you on the spot.
Feel that.
Is there a YouTube channel where I can just, because I miss hearing your voice every day, my dude. This is selfish me asking for me, and of course we'll link to it in the show notes so that everyone else can find you. But where can I hear those beautiful pipes of yours?
You can check out my website. It's devinholloway.net. And on there I have obviously my headshot, resume, about all that good stuff. But there is a link. There is a section with like videos of all the shows that I've done. Some things maybe I shouldn't have, but they you know, somehow came into my possession, and I said, you know what? I'm very proud of the work that I've done thus far. And I like to share it. So I don't necessarily actively post it, but like pretty much all of the shows that I've done, they're online.
Is there?
That's bad. Like, especially in a time of, I feel like that can be very taboo in theater, because the whole point of theater is that it's now, and you can't. That's what's so great about theater. It's like you have to be there. You have to be there, and if you don't, you missed it.
But the fact that
and in this
it's not now, right now, you know, makes me want to, like, watching Hamilton brought me back to life. I was like, oh my God.
I'm sorry, I keep forgetting to ask, what's Hamilton?
Oh, Hamilton's it's the little show that could, Joe. Let me tell you something.
It's probably one of those cult classics, Jim, that only you and like a few people have
only
watched,
me and
right?
a few people. Yeah.
Okay.
And then like 20 years, it's going to be such a big
Gonna
thing.
be huge. Everybody's gonna know about it. I'm gonna be like, I was there.
Thank you, guys. I've been sitting on that
there.
bad joke all day.
It's
Here's a fun I when I was back in 2016, I think it was when Hamilton was at the Public. A good friend of mine, his mother worked for a newspaper, a big news paper, and she would get a lot of press tickets. So she would always invite me to go see Broadway shows here and there. And she said, hey, I have tickets to this new musical Hamilton. Do you want to come? And I'm thinking, and this is before it was Hamilton.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, and I just come from a vacation. I would have had to literally leave the same day I got back from my vacation to go up to New York, go see the show, find a place to stay that night, and come back. Like, it would have been a lot. And I'm like, you know what? I can't. I really. It's just too much to. It's too much to do to, like, you know, take a 4-hour bus ride after.
That is a lot.
I mean,
that is, man. Like, I don't think anyone would fault you for
even
that.
if it was a revolution, that can be.
But it was a revolution.
I know.
I mean, a revelation. Oh God. And now I'm kicking myself because I would have suffered through the 4-hour bus ride. I would have easily. I was living in Boston.
Oh wow.
Very patriotic. So I would have gone. I would have totally gone. But
I
now we have it.
Now you have it forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the recording of it's great. I do. I mean, there are certain things that you lose, but I think a lot is gained too. And just the fact that people can see it without spending $150 is thumbs up to me.
That's the beautiful fact about it, and the way that it's captured. There's some shows that I've seen like Shrek or which I think Memphis, which I think really they capture the show in a good way. But I think to your point earlier in the podcast about forced perspective, I think those shows specifically are much more rigid in their forced perspective.
Yeah.
Of you see this one thing. With Hamilton, I think they captured it. There's so many wide shots.
There are.
And that's what I want to see.
Yeah.
I want to see the light change. I want to see how this turntable is using. I want to see what the light looks like hitting the floor of the theater, floor of the stage. That's what I want. Like, I want to see all those. And I think for the most part, the film does.
Yeah.
I love Shrek, the Shrek recording, but the big thing that was bringing me into the show was the stage, which had a huge turntable. I don't know if you guys know about it, but yeah. It's a lot more involved than Hamilton's turntable. It's 3 different discs, and I was like, oh my god, they have it recording. I can't wait to see how they use these 3 different turntables and have a hole. They can have a hole at any point in the stage, and it's not fixed. How does that work? And then I saw the recording, and I'm like, they don't even show any of it. They don't show any of this amazing creative turntable that they had to build into the theater to they had to renovate the theater for this for Shrek the musical. So, I think it's really good that now we have Hamilton and now maybe more shows will start recording things because
let's hope,
or releasing at least the Lincoln Center archives.
Yeah.
At Lincoln Center.
Yeah, like that archive that you have to have a New York Public Library card to access, and you need to go to the archive. I'm like, which I can't access anymore, which is a real shame.
Yeah, it's that archive is great. So
if they turn that into a streaming service, like you have it, it's digital, it's sitting there on a server. Just start putting it out there and collecting money. People will subscribe. That's a thing, right? Like, why hasn't New York Public Library just been like, okay, yeah, $5 a month, you can watch any play, anything ever.
So the thing about that is which I get is obviously the copyright and licensing, and the whole point about the Lincoln Center is you go in and you see that show, and that's the only time you can ever see it.
Right.
So if I go in and say, hey, I want to go see the original cast of Little Mermaid, I can only watch that recording once.
Yeah. And that's like, what?
It's like, what? Like,
it's gotta, you know what? Something tells me that they just don't want to pay actors residuals. Like, maybe that's part of it.
But
how good would it be if, because you do a Broadway run and you get paid, I'm sure, a good bit of money, and then it's over. I mean, maybe if you originated a role, you get some royalties for however long the show. I mean, I'm making this up, but if there was a streaming service, you get a nice little check every month.
And Hamilton was the one who started that, as far as from my understanding. I could be wrong with the royalties. People, they didn't do that. Everyone in the original cast of Hamilton, they're loaded now. They're great. They're set. I don't know about loaded. I don't know anyone's finances. Right. But Leslie Odom Jr. made sure that, hey guys, we need to make sure that we get a cut of what this show is going to become. Yeah. Because we're owed it. Like, everyone who goes into Hamilton now does what Leslie does what the original, Dancer 1 or Dancer 3 did. you're copyright in a sense. You're plagiarizing someone else's work. So if someone else comes into the show, why am I not being compensated for them doing the work?
You
that
created
I
the
did?
template of Aaron Burr, and if someone just picks that up and runs with it, good point. I'm glad that Mr. Odom Jr. did that.
Apparently there's some stuff about it's probably out there about how the producers were trying to pay the actors. They were like trying to give them a fee, like here's a small fee
one
of
time.
like you're gonna one time thing, and Leslie was like, guys, this is pennies.
Yeah.
Pennies worth compared to what we would be getting if we stuck to our guns. So
Good for them.
and I hope more shows do that. I hope more shows say, if this becomes something, then you will get a part of whatever the show makes in the future.
Fingers crossed, man.
Fingers crossed. When theater comes back, because it will.
It will. I mean, if it survived
it'll come back.
the Black Plague, the bubonic plague, and every other pandemic in the world.
Coming up the road. Do you know that song?
No.
Yeah.
What is that?
It's from Something Rotten. It's so. Sometimes you'll catch me singing random musical theater references.
I hope all the times to be catching you singing.
Oh.
Now, Devin, you and I briefly talked before the show that I asked if you had anything that you wanted to specifically discuss on the show, and we've been going tangent to tangent. Before we wrap things up, is there anything in particular that you wanted to? If the answer is no, that's fine. But if there's anything in particular you wanted to talk about, let's talk about it.
I want to, or at least put out there for people to go out and vote, to register to vote, make sure that your voice is heard during this coming election, during the primaries and in the general election in November. And I want to say that Black Lives Matter.
Amen.
And we need to continue this discussion. And I hope that this is not a moment, that this is truly a revolution and something that will continue past the election and past police brutality. There is so much that we need to get done. So I hope that my optimistic SpongeBob brain is hoping that we can as a society realize the moment that we're in and do good with it.
I agree 100%. What kind of country do we want to be? Do we want to be a country that
a SpongeBob
allows
country?
I'm what's that?
A SpongeBob country.
A SpongeBob country. And
honestly,
I think so there's this really great episode of Duncan Trussell's podcast. Duncan Trussell recently has been blowing up thanks to the Midnight Gospel, a great Netflix show. Devin, I think you'd love it. I go on and on about it on this podcast. But Duncan Trussell on his podcast recently interviewed Mehcad Brooks, a very, very wonderful episode. If anyone's looking to educate themselves and up their allyship, this is a great episode. And Mehcad goes on to say, what kind of country do we want to be? Do we want to be a country that allows for oppression to continue, or do we not? And he argues, and I pretty much dig it. He's like, there's two types of people in this world. There's folks that will allow oppression to continue, and there's folks that will be anti that and fight against it. So my hope is that we all start fighting against it.
I hope so too. I hope so. And I hope that we continue this moment and make it not a moment and make it a new way of life and a new beginning.
Because we're not alone.
Because we're not
don't
alone.
have to.
We're not alone.
And when you draw racial lines, you make people feel alone. That's ridiculous.
Exactly. No.
Oh.
We're all different, but we're all the same at the same time.
Yeah, we all bleed blood.
We have our different cultures. We all bleed blood. We all drink water. We all breathe air.
And I'm just gonna throw this out there and hope kids look it up. If anyone didn't know that human beings all started from one section of Africa and migrated out. So and that is not me saying that racism doesn't exist. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that if any white folks out there didn't know that our species started in Africa. Now you know. It just blows my mind that some folks don't know that. And I wanted to put it out there.
Well, so here's the thing. I was it's funny that you say this. I was just talking to Eileen. Was it yesterday?
I need to hit her up.
She called me and she's so sweet. But I was talking to Eileen and we were talking about what's going on in the world, and what I said to her, and this is something that I've kind of gotten from actually RuPaul, is people have a certain frame of mind about their world, about existence. And when you start knocking on their door and saying, hey, your way of life, your way of believing isn't right, unfortunately. It's not right, and it's hurting me. People find it so hard to break that reality. And when they have to break that reality, it breaks them in a certain way. Yeah. And that's hard on people. Change is hard. I don't know if you've seen the video going around from Golden Girls. It's about 30 years ago, and there's Don Cheadle and Ruth, who plays Blanche, and she's basically proudly showing the Confederate flag, and she's saying this is something that I grew up with, and it means pride, and it means this, and it means that to her. Yeah. And Don Cheadle's like, listen, that might be the case, but for me, it's the swastika. For me, this flag means oppression. And Blanche goes, oh, what am I supposed to do with all these memories, all these beautiful memories that I grew up thinking? They're all tarnished, Everything that I thought, everything that I knew to be true and to be good isn't. And when you tell that to people, especially people who have never been, who've never had to sacrifice something, who've never been oppressed, who've never had to deal with some kind of systematic racism, it breaks their reality. It breaks their mind a little bit. It rocks their world. And unfortunately, we need to rock some worlds.
And yes, you're 100% right. I couldn't have put it better myself. Speaking from my own experience, that's what happened to me, right? I grew up in a very, very white area. Go to art school and college, and my mind is broken open. It's like, wow, look at every other experience that's out there, every other way of going through the world as a human being. And I'm so glad I had that. I was thrust into that reality. And I'm terrified to think about how I could have turned out had I not been in those circumstances. And I guess what I'm saying is everyone needs to go to art school. Everyone in America needs to go study some kind of art, go get a bachelor's of arts somewhere.
Really,
and meet your classmates.
There's something about going to college, and it happened for me in a different kind of way. I went to college and I saw all these different people, and it said, hey, there's so many different ways of going throughout the world. Everyone has a different experience, and they're all valid. And if I care about this person, if they're my friend, if I love this person, then I need to respect their experience. And unfortunately, some people, whether you go to college or not, when you're staying in the same place for years on end, and you don't leave your town, or you don't leave your state, and you don't have these kind of otherworldly experiences, when you don't travel, you don't see the world, you don't see other things, you don't know that other people are going through different things. You don't have it. Why would you? Right. You've been inside your four walls, and that's been fine and safe.
And just to, cover my butt here a little bit, I realized I had the privilege to go to school, and I had the ability to get loans and do that. Not everybody does. I was making a joke when I said everyone go to college, and I just realized how freaking awful that sounds in hindsight.
But I think at the heart of what you're trying to say, not everyone can go to college. I was fortunate enough to go to college. Not everyone can. And not everyone can travel, and that's I think that's the issue. I
Right.
think it's this at the heart of everything. You know, they say money runs the world. I don't know if money runs the world. I think love runs the world. I'd like to say love runs the world, but money has an effect on people. So when you have money, when you can travel, you have a wider view. Give people more money.
Yes. There it is.
Like, there it is. Give people more money so that they can do the things. They can travel. They can have these experiences. They can save. They can have a life and not be afraid to open up their door and to have these experiences.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Devin.
What did Andrew Yang
yeah.
about the $1,000 a month? He had it. I mean, honestly.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Devin, this conversation has made my heart so full.
Yes.
So thank you.
It's
Thank
been
you,
great.
friend.
I do.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Jim.
I have to do one actually because I'm an awful jerk off.
Safe space.
Actually, that Golden Girls clip is actually from the Golden Girls spin-off called The Golden Palace, in which Blanche, Sophia, and Rose buy a hotel. It only lasted one season.
Oh, wow.
It only lasted one season, but it also starred Don Cheadle and Cheech Marin. And what a weird freaking show that is, huh? I've never actually seen it, but I just it's just something I know. And when I see that clip going around, and I like watch this Golden Girls clip. I'm like, well, actually. So I just need to put it out there.
Wonderful.
Thank you. I actually didn't know that. So.
Oh wow.
But
That's
regardless of where it's from, it does have a good message, and the whole and everything. I don't have anything to add. Just retweet.
Yes.
Retweet.
Yes.
We will link to Devin's website in the show notes. Thank you, my friend. A million
Yes.
thank yous.
A great time.
Thank you both. Thank you. I've enjoyed this. This is my first podcast, so thank you both for having me.
You crushed it, my friend. Beautiful.
Yay!
Kids, make sure you FaceTime. Oh, yes.
Oh man,
Devin's celebrating.
Take that celebratory laugh.
I love it.
Let's go, baby.
Throw that hat around. Kids, if you're not living with your parents again, be sure to FaceTime them. They're probably wondering how you're doing.
5 stars.
5 stars, all that stuff.
We've been spending so much great time with our friends, we forget to say like and subscribe. Well, that's
Yes,
not really what we
like,
do.
subscribe, all that.
Like and subscribe. 5 stars.
Subscribe.
Leave
Wow.
leave a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts.
Subscription.
And bye to all the moms out there.
Bye, Mom.
Bye, Mom.
Bye.
She's so fine, fine, fine. She's so fine, fine. She's so fine, she's so fine, fine, fine. She's really sweet, the finest girl